Hello everyone, so this is a very good update video about my transition, and it's sort of the sequel to my previous video, which was about how to go privately and my first experience of the first appointment and how I went from there to now my second appointment, which I had on Tuesday, and it went really well. So I had my appointment with Dr. Coxon on Tuesday. Unfortunately, it wasn't in person in Brighton, it was over the internet on Zoom, which was all good. It was a bit different, but I do all my uni work by video call anyway, so I was quite used to that. And this was obviously to discuss and assess if I'm ready to start testosterone. So I'm just gonna let you know sort of what we discussed. It was quite, it wasn't too long because there wasn't really much I needed to discuss with him, because I'd sent over my bloods prior to the appointment because I knew that that would speed things up. So the first thing that he asked was, am I registered with my new GP, because obviously I'm at uni now. I'm about 4 hours away from home, so yes, I am registered with my GP. And he just asked for their address, and then he checked my contact details, which were the same, which was fine. The first thing we discussed were my blood test results and what was alright with them and what wasn't. So he mentioned that I've got a slightly low vitamin D count, which isn't that unusual in people, so I just need to get some little vitamin D tablets. And then he mentioned that my free amount of testosterone in my body is quite high, and that's normally linked to polycystic ovarian syndrome, which from my understanding is when you develop sort of cysts on your ovaries, and quite a few people with PCOS also develop facial hair, I think. So we sort of discussed that, and then we went into it a bit deeper later on, but I'll talk about that in a minute. Then he just asked me general questions about like my history. Did I hit normal age milestones? Was anything slow in my development, which it wasn't. He asked if my mum had a normal pregnancy, and as far as I know she did, and there was no complications. He asked when I hit puberty, so it was sort of going over a little bit of what I'd already discussed with Dr. Lorimer, but I told him like 15. And then because of the fact that I could have PCOS, we discussed like if I had like a regular/irregular period pattern, and I couldn't tell because I've been on the pill for about 2 years now, and I went on it as soon as I could, just the progesterone only one, to just stop periods, because you don't want that when you're trans, and it's worked really well. So we spoke about the progesterone only pill, and he said that there's no complications with taking that and testosterone. So if anyone was wondering if you can still stay on a pill to stop your periods whilst the testosterone levels are sort of settling in and getting right so that they can eventually stop your periods, then yes, you can, and that is what I'm still going to do. So I'm going to continue taking the pill until I sort of know where my T levels are. Which is really useful to know, because I wasn't too sure if you could do that. I think it's just because it's the progesterone only pill, which doesn't contain estrogen, so it doesn't sort of counteract the testosterone in your body. He then asked me to rate my energy levels, my drive to do things, and my libido out of 10, which was fine. And then he mentioned that testosterone can actually affect these levels. So I'm quite excited about having a little bit more energy and drive to do things, because obviously in lockdown you're not as motivated, and since I moved to uni my sort of schedule's gone out the window. Like, I'm still motivated to do work, but it's not at the right times. So I'm really excited to just be able to like knuckle down and get stuff done and have the amount of energy to do that, because I've been napping quite a lot. Like when I can, when I'm allowed to, I've been napping. He then asked me about my past medical history, which it was all normal, like I explained to Dr. Lorimer. He asked anyway about my physical and my mental health, which again has been okay. Like, there's not been any issues with that. He just generally asked how I was doing. Obviously it's tough times at the moment. I said I was okay, bit annoyed that I couldn't go home to see my parents like I'd planned to, but other than that it was all good because I managed to see my family throughout half term anyway. He asked if I had any STIs, which obviously I do not, and then he mentioned about contraception, but he recognised that it wasn't relevant to me because I'll never need contraception with the partner I'll be with, so like it didn't matter. But he mentions that just to say that testosterone is not a form of contraception, so you still need to be careful. He then mentioned about some of the health screenings that are still required even if you're on testosterone. There's the cervical cancer screening. The only problem with that is you may get missed off the list because obviously when you've transitioned, you change your gender marker to male, everything on your record is male, you got a new NHS number, so at 25 you may get missed off that list because of it there. The computers and that are obviously only looking for the female gender marker, so I've just got to remember at 25 to book my cervical cancer screening because I will probably get missed off of that list. Every 2 years on T that you still have a womb as well, you need to have a simple quick ultrasound scan to measure the thickness of the lining of the womb because T can increase the thickness of the womb lining and could cause some complications, but as long as you get it checked out it's fine. Another thing that I found interesting was he mentioned that the fact of having a hysterectomy is now not needed urgently and immediately. It was thought to be needed within the first 2 years of starting testosterone, but there's generally no medical hurry, so I'm definitely going to wait because I'm terrified of surgery. He then asked about my family's medical history, so we spoke about the fact that my dad sadly passed away earlier this year due to a stroke, which obviously he'd need to be aware of because I know that taking testosterone does increase your risk of stroke, I think, not by much, but like it still needs to be monitored, so it's useful that he knew that. He then asked in terms of support if any other people in my family were LGBTQ plus or intersex. As far as I know, I'm the only LGBTQ person in my family, which is quite weird when I think about it because I know so many people that are, but at the moment it's just me. He asked how supportive my family was and I said they're extremely supportive. So are all my friends at uni. I decided instead of going stealth that I'd be open about my transition at uni because like being stealth at college or trying to be stealth just didn't really work. It made me feel bad about myself, and I'm at an arts uni, so like nobody cares. There's 5 or 6 trans people in my sort of apartment complex, so yeah. But everyone's really, really nice about it. He then asked if I was in a relationship. Unfortunately, I'm not, but obviously that's some useful information for him. He also asked if I was just focusing on my studies at uni or if I had a part-time job as well. At the moment, I'm only focusing on my studies because I don't have a part-time job. However, I have applied to quite a few jobs, so I'm just waiting to hear back on that. He then asked me if the fact that I don't smoke, don't drink alcohol too excessively, and don't do any recreational drugs was still true, which it is. Obviously, I'm at uni, but to be honest, I've been quite good with my alcohol consumption here, because alcohol is expensive when you have to pay for it. He then just mentioned how I'm obviously quite advanced in my social transition. I've changed my name on quite a few documents like my passport, my driving license, provisional, not full because I'm procrastinating a lot with that. On my NHS record I've changed my name so he could recognise that I'm quite far ahead. Obviously I am, I've been out for 3 years. Then sort of spoke about my fertility decision. So for me, I looked into it and it's not something that I want to do. I don't want to freeze my eggs at this point because the success rate for me, it just wasn't as good, and it meant that I'd have to do multiple operations, and if I was going to do it, I'd only do it once because that sort of invasive procedure just I didn't like the thought of it. However, he did mention that it is possible to come off of T and then freeze your eggs, and the success rates are still sort of the same. So if anyone does have any doubt and wants to change their mind, they can. I doubt I will, but I do know someone that has done that. He then asked for my height, my weight and my blood pressure, and then I think from that he took my BMI. At the moment I'm literally just over obese, but I know from studying sport that the BMI does not take into account your muscle weight or your age. So I know that I'm not obese because I have lost a heck of a lot of weight over this year. It's just sort of muscle weight, but I just need to be aware of that and maybe try and get down from the obese, even though it really doesn't take into account other factors. I have to request for the GP to arrange an ultrasound scan so that I can see if I do have PCOS, which hopefully is all good. We then came on to the important questions such as, do I want injection or do I want gel? So for me, I have chosen to have gel because I am away from home and I don't want my mental health to be affected too much. So I know with injections that you have peaks and troughs for like how well you're feeling and your T levels, so I don't want that. I'd rather have a steady amount of testosterone in my body, especially with this being a new and massive thing, being away from home, not being around my support that I would have. So I'm doing that. And also injections, the thought of injecting myself without my family there to help me or whatever, like I don't know, it's just not for me. So I'm going on gel and Dr. Coxon agreed with that, which is really good. The dose I'm starting off on is just 2 squirts of the pump from the Testo gel, very well named, as we both mentioned that, how it's very well named, Testo gel. I have to apply it either to the upper arm, shoulder area, my upper thigh, or my stomach, and try and alternate that a little bit to give the skin a bit of a rest. And then I have to leave that to dry for 5 minutes before I put any clothes on. We then sort of discussed how likely we think my GP is to accept the shared care agreement. So he asked how trans friendly they are, and I think they're all good. I had a phone appointment with them today and they seemed okay, because she asked, she said that she's going to ask for Dr. Coxon to send over the shared care agreement, so I'm guessing they're fine with it. Dr. Coxon also said that he's going to put in lots of reassurance for my request because that's what I need. Yeah, I'm just hoping that they do agree to it. I think they're in the process of doing that, so that's really good that they're going to do that. He also mentioned that it is way quicker if I send results. So like if I get my bloods done, again, if I send him the results and not the GP, it's quicker and it's less complicated, so it's good to do that if you can. He then spoke about testosterone side effects, so he emailed them over, and then he shared his screen because it was on Zoom because of COVID, and we spoke about them together. The main ones that were picked out were that your skin can get quite oily. Before I moved down here, I would have been really annoyed at that, but for some reason the water in Cornwall just really makes my skin dry, so I don't think that's going to be much of a problem. And then a massive one, period stopping. Obviously that's an amazing one, like that's one of the whole points you take testosterone. So he said that can take between like 1 to 2 to 3 months, I think. As I mentioned before, I'm going to continue on the progesterone only pill until I'm ready to come off. Voice deepening, he said that happens within a few weeks actually. I've watched many trans people's videos and you can notice a little change, but obviously the sort of major changes happen within like around 3 months is when your voice gets significantly deeper. So I'm really looking forward to that. Obviously, as I mentioned, you get more energy, more drive, and your libido goes up. Fat redistribution happens, but that's in the later stages, which will be good because then some of the fat redistributed from your hips goes to your stomach, so your figure's not as curvy. Facial and body hair, obviously. I'm really looking forward to facial hair, maybe, I don't know. if I can grow any. My dad couldn't really grow much, so that depends. More muscle, I'm really looking forward to this because he said that when you start testosterone, you gain a bit of muscle weight even by not doing anything. And I am a really active person, and I've been going to the gym for about 2 years, and especially in lockdown, I changed up my fitness routine and became determined to lose weight and be healthy. So I'm continuing to do that, and I'm working out more or less every day at uni as well. So when that comes, I'm gonna be so happy to finally see results that I've worked hard for. Then he sort of mentions a slightly negative one, so hair loss. I'm not too sure about this one. My dad was going bald, but then my granddad's not actually that bald, so it might happen, it might not. Obviously, you get a receding hairline. Apparently mine's already receding, but that's sort of the bad side effects, but like it's worth it. The risk of going bald is the same as any cisgender man, so it doesn't matter. And then he mentioned that there's not actually any change in overall life expectancy after someone has taken testosterone, which was nice to hear. So that was all the side effects and sort of like the technical bit that we went through. He then asked if I had any questions. Obviously the massive question was, when can I start testosterone? And the response was not one that I was expecting. So he went through the sort of time frames. He said that he emailed me the letter of the assessment that he'd been conducting whilst we spoke together today, and then he would post that letter by the end of the week. So then that would go to the doctors, and then I'd have to ring up the doctor I'd have to ring up my GP and discuss the letter, which should be all good, which I've already done, because instead of letting him email it, I went down to the doctor's Wednesday, so the day afterwards, and put that letter in because I was very concerned with the fact that we're going back into a lockdown, that it would be delayed. So obviously I did that, and then I quickly had a phone appointment today. So I'm thinking within a week to 2 weeks I'll have the prescription of testosterone. They just need to get the shared care agreement done and obviously order it in. But the GP just said that I had to ring back next week to see if it's done or not. She said because I've gone privately it should be a lot quicker, so fingers crossed. I then asked how much it would cost because I'm an idiot and I don't know these things. So if it's an NHS prescription, it should just be £9 because that's I think that's the average fee. But I'm not too sure if I get it for free because I am a uni student, so I need to look into that. He then mentioned sort of the follow-up from me starting testosterone. So he, Dr. Coxon, likes to see people for a follow-up appointment between 6 to 9 months after you started testosterone, just to check, just to go over your bloods and check everything's okay, and maybe adjust the T levels if needed. But he also mentioned that the waiting time for his appointment is between 7 to 8 months right now, so I need to book that now, otherwise I'll be waiting quite a long time. Obviously this is such a massive step in my transition, and I'm over the moon. I'm so happy. When I found out, I wanted to run around my accommodation. Literally, I just screamed yes, because I wasn't expecting it to be within 2 weeks. I was expecting it to be in January. So I'm super excited for that. I'm obviously going to be using this channel to update you guys on my transition for anyone that wants to know. So that's really good. So I'm going to make a video about me starting testosterone soon. So I'll see you when I finally started tea.